So when's somebody gonna tell me why there's a bit of fuzz in the recording? Oh, alright, fine. You take a mortal man, you put him in control. Watch him become a god. These people's these people's heads are roll. There, are you happy now?
Hey everybody, it's David Suarez, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the fan-made orchestral composition, The Book of Life, Part 1. Yes, it's a Part 1, because I didn't realize that I'd end up making a Part 2 for this fan-made composition. But anyways, let's talk more about this Part 1 of the composition. Well, I suppose we'll start conceptual-wise. I didn't originally plan it to be a fan-made composition at all. In fact, it was just something that I wanted to see if I could go with making some sort of like Spanish-style theme with orchestra, with the SENOR CROWLEY Symphony Orchestra. But as I do recall, before I even started composing all the parts and the stems and the pieces, I do remember watching the Book of Life, the very first theatrical release trailer up on YouTube, and I was like, whoa, this is cool. And actually, as a matter of fact, the very, 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 very first part that I've ever written was about a year or so ago, but it was just originally written for a French horn section. It wasn't a full-scale orchestra. And one day I happened to stumble upon this this written composition for the French horns, and I looked a little deeper into it. I was thinking, what can I do to expand on this? It was just a simple chord progression, the French horns you hear in the intro, I believe. And then after watching that trailer, I felt so inspired to go ahead and fully orchestrate just what I had already written down for the French horns. It wasn't too difficult to pull off initially, because by the time everything had been done, we were in the post-production stages of the composition. Everything seemed just right, just the way I had wanted it to be. But at first, I felt like there was something missing. Something that could enhance the sort of the flavor. So, what do? You pour some tapatio, and I'm just kidding. No. We had in mind acoustic guitars, so I volunteered, hey, do you mind if I play some bits and pieces? And that pretty much just turned into B-roll that didn't really make the final cut, but there were some parts like the first few measures was no pick, just straight hand flamenco strumming, and that sort of just stuck. And like they asked me if I could play that again with pick, and actually, as a matter of fact, with the pick, I found there was a lot more control in the way I was strumming, and it just nailed it. Because after we kept the flamenco hand at first because it just like had that right vibe at the time, but once the next few measures after the flamenco hand, it was the strumming pattern. It just locked in perfectly and set it up for the next part. Which, before we start talking about, I'd just like to mention the wonderful, wonderful Toiko performance from the SENOR CROWLEY Symphonic Orchestra. They really brought things together when we didn't have, at the time, like some orchestral percussion. They were the first ones to come out and say, well, we'd like to perform for you. And in the end, it fits so perfectly. It was like the ball was in motion, both metaphorically and literally, because we needed orchestral percussionists. But anyways, when they incorporated the taiko percussion in this solely Spanish style composition, it literally blended two styles together that almost worked flawlessly, in my opinion. And we are fortunate that they provided the orchestral percussion for this. I don't think it would have worked without percussion at all. So, with regards to the choir part, it was something that I just added on at the last minute. It wasn't originally planned out, but it's kind of those things where it happened instantly and it worked right off the bat. And that's what I love about the SENOR CROWLEY Symphonic Orchestra. They get it right the first time. And surprisingly enough, it added a whole new sort of feeling to the overall composition. The way it sort of just starts off, like you have exposition, there's your exposition music. And then all of a sudden, adventure happens, and then the choir brought that adventurous part. Like imagine you're running away from a giant ball. Yeah, okay, Indiana Jones, whatever. So you're running, and what's more epic than a staccato choir, honestly? And the way it sort of the way it was arranged, it had such a Danny Elfman feel to it, and that's what I think I wanted. In the end, is something adventurous, but at the same time, sort of grand, majestic, epic, if you will. A lot of people who know me personally know that I have an affinity for French horns. It's just
one of your French horns.
My favorite sounding instrument of the orchestra. Second to strings, but I incorporated so much French horn parts into this composition. There's literally French horn section throughout the entire piece, from start to finish. But that's just a small little tidbit of me that you probably won't catch throughout hearing the rest of the orchestra. And we have arrived at the grand, epic sort of conclusion part to the piece, where the interlude, it starts to slow down into the more epic. And then I wanted a solo violinist to play over a accompaniment of a full string section. Mainly just the cellos and the violas for that part, but I think it kind of transitions from the rolling of the ball, the epic adventure, into more of a grand. Suppose you were looking at a giant panoramic view of landscape. There you go. That's exactly what the transition piece does. And as a direct result of having the choir section for just a short amount of time, there wasn't enough time to ask them if at least one of them would return for some lead vocals that were added again impromptu towards the end. So it was unanimously decided that I would sing the very last part in my falsetto soprano vocal range, which doesn't exist for people like me, but close, because I am a tenor. So I ended up singing the it's not exactly a dual lead harmony per se, it's more just kind of like octaves apart from each other, really. So I just sang the high soprano falsetto and then just an octave below it as a tenor, with some harmony, I'll give you that. So towards the end, I wanted to incorporate, once again, French horns, because I love French horns. So instead of having the full entire French horn section play, I reduced that by half, and they ended up playing just a small, sort of reminder towards the introductory phrase parts. And it sort of ended the entire composition from exposition to adventurous to grand landscape, and then the final fourth element of this composition was kind of cartoony, like a tongue-in-the-cheek sort of feeling that I felt when I was originally writing this. So I think the French horns did exactly that. And of course, by the time everything's done and recorded, we went back into post, where we just went back and we remastered the whole thing to sound the way it is now. And during the practice sessions, before we even started recording, all the orchestral stems and the guitar stems, they were all pre-recorded, and then they were replayed on the soundstage that SENOR CROWLEY Symphonic Orchestra has. And there it was at the very last moment. The name had officially changed to the Book of Life Fan-Made Orchestral Part 1. And at first, I don't even remember why I let it be called Part 1, because I did not have a Part 2 in mind at the time that it was released. But no one stopped me, so Now, when I actually went to go see the movie The Book of Life, I was constantly going back and thinking of my orchestral idea of what the movie might look like. And when the movie finished, I was like, this is exactly what I was imagining. I was so thrilled and so happy that movies like this are being made. And so in conclusion, this composition, you could say, took maybe almost a year, but that's kind of not exactly what happened, because the part was written originally as just a small little chord progression that I had come up with, but the actual production value time that was spent into making this was about 4 or 6 months total, because I would keep coming back and I would say, this is okay, but I'm not sure what could, be improved. So the SENOR CROWLEY Symphonic Orchestra figured themselves out, and it worked in the end. Everything worked out far and away better than I've thought of initially. This composition in particular probably had as much thought put into it as The Last Pony in Ponyville, which was another milestone in my composing career, because that was a full 7 minutes of various moods, emotions, and motifs. And for this one, it's kind of the same, but it's not not a full story. It's only part of the story, which again just makes sense why I called it Part 1, I suppose. I don't know why I didn't see that in the beginning, though. So, if you haven't seen The Book of Life yet, I definitely recommend that you go and watch it. It's an absolutely wonderful, heartwarming film. And hey, while you're at it, why not check out the Book of Life fan-made orchestral composition, Part 1 today.